Exclusive new reporting about what really happened behind the scenes at the Supreme Court before the 6 out of 3 justices delivered Donald Trump his big immunity win. And perhaps most notable is something we did not see from Chief Justice John Roberts. CNN's Joan Biskupic is joining us now to explain. Joan, this is your excellent reporting. Let's just state that as fact now. What did you learn happened behind the scenes to get them to what is a hugely consequential decision, not just, of course, for Donald Trump, but for all the presidents in the future?
That's right, Sarah. And you're correct to even point out what we've all known of John Roberts to this point. You know, we know that he is a Chief Justice who has really tried to get compromise between the right and left, especially on these important questions of presidential powers. And he also has been insistent about how once a judge dons the black robe, he leaves his or her political affiliation behind. Remember back in 2018 when he admonished then President Trump himself and said, we do not have Obama judges or Trump judges, Bush judges or Clinton judges. What we have is an extraordinary group of dedicated judges doing their level best to do equal right to those appearing before them. And, you know, so we go into this, Sarah, believing that we're going to have him working between the sides. But what I found out in my reporting this summer, Sarah, is that when the justices met in private the day after the oral arguments, they're in private, the 9 of them in this oak paneled conference room near the Chief Justice's chambers. As they went around the table, it was a hard and fast 6-3 vote with the 6 Republican appointed conservatives on one side ruling for former President Donald Trump, and the 3 Democrat appointed liberals ruling for special counsel Jack Smith in his effort to try to bring the former president to a criminal prosecution. There was no effort by the Chief Justice in this case to reach out to the left at all. He tried to persuade his colleagues not to think about, not to consider Donald Trump, to look toward the future. In fact, at one point he wrote in his final opinion, unlike the political branches and the public at large, we cannot afford to fixate exclusively or even primarily on present exigencies. And that meant in the end, Sarah, that with sort of the liberals cut off, that he was negotiating only with the justices on his side, including Justice Amy Coney Barrett.
And what was her role? What was Amy Coney Barrett's role in all this?
Yeah, it was crucial. She was the lone member of the conservative side who tried to find some middle ground, which is a place that John Roberts once upon a time was at. She was the one who tried to find some middle ground. She signed all of the chief's, she said all but one part of the chief's statement, giving this broad immunity. For the most part, she was with him, but then she wrote separately to sort of put a different spin on the framework, one that sort of emphasized how special counsel Jack Smith's case could go forward in the future. And she also broke off from the Chief Justice and her conservative brethren when she wrote that she did not agree with them that evidence of official acts couldn't even be used in a separate criminal trial that had nothing to do with the Jack Smith prosecution. For example, the Manhattan hush money trial. And already that part of the opinion is reverberating up in New York, Sarah.
Of course. I do want to ask you, you know, you talked about Roberts not kind of trying to get everyone to coalesce. What does this say about him, like, for the term? Has he been consistent with this same standing?
This was a very aggressive term for Chief Justice Roberts, Sarah. He was with, you know, let's remind everyone where he was 2 years ago in the Dobbs abortion ruling. He was alone. He stood alone between the 5 conservatives to his right who voted to totally reverse Roe v. Wade, and then the liberals on his left who didn't want it to be dismantled in that way. But this time, he's not alone at all. He certainly has moved over to his colleagues on the right and is fully in control. And the big question is exactly what you asked. Is this his future? Is he going to throw his lot in completely with his colleagues on the right so he can control these decisions more? You know, they didn't need him in that Dobbs ruling. They had 5 for a majority. But I don't think he wants to get into a position again where they don't need him. And certainly in this really big case, probably a case that will define him for many years going forward. He was going to just really swing for the fences and give something to former President Donald Trump, even though he wanted to emphasize this was about the future of the presidency, irrespective of who is in the White House, Sarah.
Getting all this great information, Joan, especially in your book, 9 Black Robes. Very well done. Thank you for all that reporting. Really interesting.